Welcome back to Left of the Dial, taking you through the classic age of vinyl and beyond. Today, I want to talk about the Piña Colada Song. Should we talk about the Piña Colada Song? I mean, were you going to talk at length about this song anytime soon? I kinda doubt it, so allow me to set the scene.
I was tired of my lady.
That's right, we are finally talking about 1979's omnipresent hit, Escape, parentheses, the Piña Colada Song. One of the more easily forgotten song titles in music history. If you're the guy who refers to it by its Christian name of Escape, because you and Escape are on a first name basis, I guess, I'm just gonna be unfair and assume you're talking about the Journey album of the same name instead. And then I'm probably not talking to you anymore after that. Yeah, that's the side I'm taking. I'm a YouTube armchair critic that's bashing Journey while giving a free pass to the frickin' Piña Colada Song of all things. A song that's been forever run into the ground for being one of the all-time tackiest, cheesiest, and just flat-out lame songs ever. Just a heads up, that word lame is going to come up quite a bit as we review this song. Cause Escape, the Piña Colada Song, is a tried and true staple to any and all guilty pleasure playlists. But don't be fooled, this song is not so bad it's good. That selling is short for reasons that I'll get into soon enough in this video. And Escape, the Piña Colada Song is a fitting title because there must have been a solid 2-year window where you couldn't escape the Piña Colada Song. It was humongous. Where did this song even come from? This feels like one of those items of music that's just always kind of been around. It's hard to imagine somebody sitting down in front of a piano, putting pen to paper until you walk away with the Piña Colada Song in hand. Did you know the name of the artist who made this song before you clicked on this video? Well, his name is Rupert Holmes and he looks like your 8th grade math teacher. Or somebody hired to fix your sticky exhaust valve at Jiffy Lube, mixed with a shaggy cartoon puppy. Rupert Holmes never comes up in the conversation all that often, but I never stop to wonder why that is. Maybe you do know a few things about him already, and that's great, but I can tell you with most confidence that 99% of people don't. Well, he's got a way more impressive resume than you might have expected. The man behind the Piña Colada Song has certainly got more than half a brain, and has proven himself to be quite a distinguished artist. Who'da thunk it? Interestingly enough, Escape the Piña Colada Song became the final US #1 song of the entire 1970s decade, reaching #1 on December 21st, 1979. A cool feat on its own, no doubt, but it's also notable for being the only song to hit #1 in 2 separate decades. Or the first to do so, it's fuzzy. After being briefly dethroned from the spot in the first week of January 1980 by Casey and the Sunshine Band's Please Don't Go, it bumped back to the top spot afterwards. Holmes claims otherwise and cheekily declares it was #1 for 2 decades uninterrupted. And if that's true, that's a nice way to kick off an entire decade. I think it's a slight improvement from 2020's fanfare of slat slat and Planters killing off Mr. Peanut. But that's neither here nor there. It's also the definitive song about a particular cocktail. I won't deny you if you like listening to Brass Monkey more, and I suppose that Gin and Juice is a worthy contender, if you can even qualify that as a cocktail proper. It curb stomps the shit out of Tequila Sunrise, that's for sure. I expect somebody out there to make a song showdown between the Piña Colada Song and Margaritaville. A miserable competition, yes. I refuse to allot any brain space towards this pairing. I reject it out of principle. Yeah, we're doing this. Bet you didn't think we'd be doing an 8,000 word analysis and deep dive on the Piña Colada Song, but here we are. This is my life now. Oh, Ringo, what would I do without you? There's no time to reminisce on a sunny song like this late winter season that we're in. There's no refunds, you suckers! So who is this guy, and how did we let him escape the limelight?
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue.
So a song about piña coladas. I bet you're wondering if I can accurately tell you its history. And sure enough, yes I can. Admittedly, it took me a little while longer to figure out since this is outside my usual area of expertise to be quite honest, but I think I can do my best to sum it up. In short, the piña colada is a popular cocktail drink typically served frosty cold with white rum, pineapple juice, and coconut cream amongst a variety of other ingredients depending both on the recipe and the drinker's own personal matter of taste preferences. The name when translated literally means strained pineapple in reference to the drink's pineapple juice being its defining characteristic. The piña colada, of course, can be enjoyed liquor-free, which is a popular fruity drink choice for many children. The beverage originated in 19th century Puerto Rico by one Roberto Cafresi, a notorious sea pirate with Robin Hood-esque morality who was wanted at large by both Spain and American governments, eventually allowing the figure to be highly mythologized following his execution by firing squad in 1825. The drink was concocted while Roberto was at sea with copious amounts of rum, coconut, and pineapple. Even with differing theories, it is universally agreed and recognized that the drink is native to Puerto Rico, likely because it is a land renowned for its agricultural properties, with sugars, fruits, coffee, all growing aplenty.
This is
When the territory became a commonwealth in 1952, they began to export their tropical fruits to the U.S., including but not limited to coconuts and pineapples, leading to a resurgence in the Piña Colada drinks in Western culture. The advent of electric blenders and coconut cream certainly helped. The drink is a great encapsulation of their tropical culture, and Puerto Rico declared it their official drink in 1978. The Piña Colada continues to be enjoyed overseas and everywhere that has a swim-up bar. But you were probably asking me about the song, weren't you? Okay, so jokes aside, there actually is a pretty interesting story to how the Piña Colada song came to be, so sit tight, you're gonna want to hear this. Since it was the final song to cap off an entire decade of music, I think we should take a step backwards and try to put this song into some larger context. The 70s! What a time to be making music. It was the direct continuation and necessary extension and evolution to what had to be the most fertile time in recorded music history from roughly 1965 onwards. This is the decade where your mind automatically jumps to artists that weren't just era-defining, but all-time greats. I'm talking about the likes of Led Zeppelin, Queen, Van Halen, AC/DC, Aerosmith, and so many more who we all remember for how they dominated the music world and changed the course of rock history forever. As for the specific genres of 70s origin, punk had doubled down on what garage rock and what would later be referred to as proto-punk had set up previously, exploding onto the scene and tearing rock music down to its most essential components. It was specially designed to elicit a strong reaction and was a music of social change, all while providing some of the most enduring classics that any genre has to offer. If that wasn't your bag, then how about you switch on over to some progressive rock, which was pushing the absolute limits of what Western music could even be, with its complexity and technical prowess, the likes of which previously unseen and unimaginable. Elsewhere, funk was taking political music to newer heights and had completely reshaped the way your average person would listen to rhythm. Yes, it was an amazing time for music that I'm sure everybody appreciated at the time.
Sky rockets in flight. Afternoon delight.
Well, all of that's how we like to think of it now. That was not the popular zeitgeist at the time. Sorry to break it to you. Smiling, Wonder Bread, rice cake delights dominate radio. No, I'm not above making fun of Afternoon Delight, the most easy punching bag in music history. Nor am I too good to make fun of the biggest hit of the entire decade, which came from Pat Boone's Daughter, for the record. And that should really tell you where the public's interests were for this decade. This was the decade when everybody was raging and losing their marbles against Boogie Oogie Oogieing when disco went down in flames.
It's a nightmare!
But Paul Inca, he aight. No problems here. This offensively inoffensive canned music was just fine by most people. It's not quite yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy from the decade prior, but it's not that far off. And I'm sure that song's writer still found work in the new decade, even if it does have a shocking spiritual successor in the earliest part of this decade. That's just unfortunate. Did anybody see the newest Quentin Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? I had a good time with it, and it grew on me even more when I saw it in theaters for a second time. Among everything else in the film, it was the soundtrack that really won me over. Before its release, you hear that Tarantino is making a movie set in 1960s LA, and the soundtrack possibilities are just endless. Given its subject matter, I placed my money down for an anachronistic recording of Helter Skelter making an appearance in the film's soundtrack. Or maybe Brad Pitt could be driving around the city, nodding along to some CCR. Maybe he'll have a character who's into the scrappy garage rock of the time. But nope! Every character is listening to Sunshine Pop. The soundtrack's crown jewel is Paul Revere and the Raiders of all bands, a group he must be celebrating for being the lamest band in all existence. Just listen to Kicks. Enough said. I think I completely lost it when Brother Love's Traveling Salvation show came on. Come on, dude. Even for Neil Diamond, this is among the chintziest songs to his name, even if it is a favorite of mine, personally. It felt like a directorial decision to focus on these songs of the era. The Summer of Love's Afterglow was wearing thin, and the Manson murders were just around the corner. An event that was a terribly unfortunate but still extremely significant chapter in American history that many claim was the exact moment the 60s truly came to an end. Tarantino didn't beat around the bush or sugarcoat the copious amounts of sugar to its music. The music was quite literally what every character would have been listening to at that moment in time. Flower child hippy-dippy fluff. If you ever wondered why hippies got such a bad rap, and you think their music is all great and timeless, just listen to any of this stuff and you can understand why the style needed to go away. And this carried over into the 70s. This is the decade where easy listening became a viable radio format. MOR, middle-of-the-road music exists now. Listeners who grew up on classic rock radio remember this era for its hard rock bands, but we still do remember that soft rock is a genre too, right? It took a long time for me to come to terms that soft rock is an actual quantifiable genre of music making, and not just a term made up by music critics for featherweight hacks that they didn't like. Not that there are any artists who'd proudly declare themselves as soft rock, but still. A lot of these styles eventually morphed into the formless void that is adult contemporary. For what it's worth, the 70s are my favorite decade for all the reasons above. It's all interesting to me. And if there's a song to end this decade, well,
I was tired of my lady.
we're almost there. If we're going to look at the lamer music of the 1970s with an emphasis on easy listening, and especially if we're going to be talking about the song this video is about, we should probably take a quick look at what's known as yacht rock. Yacht rock is different than soft rock. Soft rock gets you the Carpenters and Bread. Yacht rock is Michael McDonald and my boy Chris Cross. Basically, it's a Gordon Lightfoot song served to you in a pineapple husk. Describing the style of music as yacht rock is a pretty recent thing too. It's only been coined within the past 15 years or so. And I've always felt kinda awkward trying to recommend yacht rock as a genre to people that I know for a fact would love it. Usually generations before mine who actually lived through this music, which just didn't have a name at the time. Even the genre name can sound like a backhanded remark to its audience. Like, who am I to tell you that young schmucks like myself renamed a style of music that you grew up listening to? It's not a bad call to give a name to a type of music that didn't have one for its years of existence, but it does feel strange and retroactive. I think this generation's newfound obsession with yacht rock might have something to do with why disco is getting a big reappraisal. It's kitsch, camp, and just fun all around. Lord knows that our music nowadays is so grayscale and morose. I see no reason why we wouldn't want to look back to simpler times. I'm just saying. Yacht rock is still a really hard subgenre to classify, and I'm still not entirely convinced it's not complete bogus. You can cross-reference particular songs on yacht or yacht.com. If it has an approval ranking of over 50, it's certifiably yacht rock. And the only song with a pure 100% is What a Fool Believes, because yeah, of course it is. Wicked woman, cool crimes and mistress, you cast a cool spell on me. Common themes in these songs are leisure drinking, partying, love, and loneliness, all while being impossibly smooth. Smooth like Malibu. And well,
I was tired of my
this fits really well. To me, this was always a song that stood head and shoulders above a lot of its peers in the yacht rock phenomenon. And it turns out there is a lot of heated debate about whether this is even yacht rock or not. But we can agree that the Piña Colada Song is at least a little yachty. So here we are, the Piña Colada Song. Here's a live performance of the Piña Colada Song with an opening where Rupert Holmes orders a round of Piña Coladas for the village people. Funny, I thought the village people's drink of choice would be scotch neat. I hope everyone appreciates the 10th level of hell I've discovered by dedicating an entire video to this song. This song has been swishing around my head non-stop for ages now. After listening to this song on repeat, I feel like I only have half a brain, where the song is now taking a permanent residency. It is catchy. Yacht rock has a lot of entitlement to jazz rock specifically, which is what gives it a lot of its class and charm, but it also robs a few songwriters of the capability to truly go all in on a melody. That is not a problem with the Piña Colada Song. It gets to the chorus within its first 45 seconds, which was a very good decision in its favor. A lot of this video is about its historical significance and lyrical implications, but I still do want to give some praises to its music aspects. For smaller details, I really like that little guitar line that's being pumped full of steroids with those big sound effects. The guitar line isn't much on its own, but all the processing basically forces it to life. I also dig the small keyboard whooshes that simulate waves crashing against the dunes of the Cape in the same section. And something I just realized, do the chords literally never change on the song? How have I never noticed this? Even then, the song does not get old, at all. I have never once thought that this song overstays its welcome. This song's longevity isn't due in small part to the fact that drinking songs are just always gonna have an audience. Always. Even during Prohibition times. Speakeasies and jazz music are inseparable, and likely had a big hand in jazz becoming the dominant music for Americans. People like drinking songs. Songs about drinking and songs to drink to. Side note, I think I've heard people reference the Piña Colada Song in the same breath as Kokomo. I leave no comment. With all its competition, it is a very singular song. There aren't really other songs that operate the same way that this one does. That said, it's absolutely a song I can understand if you could take it or leave it. In fact, this is a surprisingly very divisive song. The Piña Colada Song is a popular selection for most annoying songs ever made lists. Not always, it's not a shoo-in for these type of lists, but it is a frequent visitor. There are a bunch of people who'd rather stick their face in a cheese grater, ears first, than have to listen to this sap ever again. Google search engine asked if I meant, I hate the Piña Colada Song. No joke. This song is very polarizing. While a lot of people do have positive ties to it, others level it among their least favorite songs ever made. It's a split reception similar to Len's Steal My Sunshine. It's been around long enough in people's memory banks that some are now finding ways to call it problematic. We did it, people. We found a way to ruin the Piña Colada Song of all things. Well, articles asking, have you really listened to the lyrics of this song? If there's no other purpose to the Piña Colada Song, it's that you've listened to its lyrics. This isn't pumped up kicks, or a Michael Stipe Mumblepalooza. The lyrics are right out there in the open. I can't imagine getting anything from this song at all if you paid no mind to the lyrics whatsoever. 40 plus years of the syrupy bellyache of a song has understandably left many audiences with the most unpleasant hangover. Not least to blame is from some of the song's lyrics, especially at its end, which leaves a bad aftertaste for some. Hold my hair, Becky, I'm going in! Ah! The plot isn't something I feel the need to dwell too long on. I assume that if you're familiar with the song, you're familiar with the story. Escape the Piña Colada Song is one of the 70s more enduring story songs from a decade that certainly wasn't lacking in them. I feel it's earned its own little ranking in the pantheon of great story songs, which is impressive in its own right. Story songs can often lose their luster with repeated listenings, no? And the Piña Colada Song has stood the test of time for most intents and purposes, no matter how quaint the story is. Essentially, the song begins with the narrator singing that he's tired of his lady and is looking for more excitement in his life. A worn-out recording of a favorite song is a clever way to describe their complacency in marriage. Good lyric there. At a halfway point from boredom and desperation, he turns to the personal section of the newspaper and finds an intriguing suitress who placed an ad there. He falls for this woman, whose love save me spiel is less a statement of relationship requirements, but instead more a laundry list of likes and dislikes in a partner. If you like piña coladas, if you like getting caught in the rain, so on and so forth. Written by some woman who thinks that the couple who drinks together stays together and will dump your sorry butt to the curb if you do yoga anywhere near her vicinity. Oh, and she's also into knocking boots on faraway beaches and probably getting sand into gross crevices. And this guy just can't wait to while out with this girl and start living la vida loca. She'll make you take your clothes off and go dancing in the rain. Yes, she will. Despite the narrator feeling genuinely remorseful, and I do get elements of actual guilt, which bodes better for the narrative, he takes a chance and decides to write back to her and meet this mystery lady at the bar called O'Malley's. And the third verse is where the real fun begins. You see, this rendezvous has some poetic justice to it, because this woman who will surely complete this man's love life, who they've both been so desperately waiting to meet each other, is revealed to be nobody other than his wife. What? They were writing to each other the entire time and they didn't even know it. They never knew they had all these things in common. The moral is that everything he wanted in a partner can already be found in the one he has. Couples can still surprise each other, love the one you're with, that sort of thing. The punchline is boomer newspaper comic level, but it works. It makes the act of learning about your significant other a fantastic, worthwhile pursuit. I like that as a message. Both just laugh it off. Ah, it's you. The song smartly decides to not even hint at how awkward the conversation that happened immediately afterward would be. That's not the point. There is still the feeling that this was a loving marriage. It hasn't turned acrimonious, just stale. That's the biggest gripe with his partner, that things fizzled out. No sort of resentment here. They thought their flame died out, but there was a spark still burning bright, ready to reignite. So there you have it. It's a quirky story of a loving couple who found their passion again by going through some... Oh wait, he was totally gonna cheat on his wife. And his wife is so unhappy she's cheating too. She was the one who placed the ad. Some of the fun is getting your average person's read on the song's ending. Even the most casual of music fans are likely to have heard this song enough times to form an opinion on it. So is the couple on the right foot, or is it a mediocre romance turned irreparable? Back on the right track, or doomed to fail? Is it all justifiable if he never actually goes through with it, since it was his old lady he's been so enamored by the whole time? And the thing is, did they really even grow apart? All of their common interests seem like really basic getting to know you chit-chat. An unhappy married couple cheating on each other with each other. If there is one thing to say about these people, it is that they deserve only each other. I can't help but imagine them rediscovering their passion for each other time and time again, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind style. Maybe people had an easier time with the song's ending when the song came out, because the whole free love phenomenon wasn't that far in the rear view, and nobody really had to bat an eye. But I have met a good amount of people who just can't look past it. All cards on the table, it never really bothered me, even if I do enjoy looking at its implications. I am not going to get into the specifics of why this does not work as a real married couple. The narrative is too flimsy for this purpose, and I think it would be totally missing the point. The plot twist is clearly not meant to be held under any thorough inspection. At all. People who think they're recognizing a big plot hole in this 40-year-old song probably need to take a step back. I am not holding the Piña Colada song to the same level of scrutiny as the couple in Marriage Story. Although, could you imagine?
I never knew that you like Piña Coladas.
Personally, I refuse to see it as anything but a happy ending. I always take it exactly at face value, and I recommend you do the same. I'm not saying the romance story is a turn your brain off, shut up, and don't think about it song. I find there's a fair bit of depth to what's being presented here, even if others may not feel the same way. Usually when I hear people thrashing this song, it usually ends up sounding like this Jimmy Kimmel skit I found with Andy Samberg as a heckler. Check it out.
I was tired of my lady.
Why?
We've been together too long.
What was your relationship like?
Holmes calls the ending a happy ending with a footnote. Sure, I like that. I guess there's been some recent attention drawn to the song because that's the exact conversation that happens in the Netflix exclusive flick Like Father, and it's got some people online talking about it. The scene is barely 90 seconds long, but I watched the entire thing because I hate quality and myself. Besides it being a feature-length advert for Carnival Cruises, it's a daughter-father bonding story between Kristen Bell and Kelsey Grammer. Inspired casting on their part, where Kristen's character learns there's more to life than being a workaholic after she's left at the altar. So her estranged Frasier dad wants to strengthen their relationship aboard her planned honeymoon cruise. It goes as you'd expect it would, before the movie blindsides you over 40 minutes in with a rom-com plot with Seth Rogen as the romantic lead. How did this happen? Who made this film? Who made this film? Lauren Miller? Oh, okay. And that Ted Danson is the cruise's bartend, leading for Belle to realize that Carnival Cruises are the good place. Wait, I might have got that mixed up. The pivotal scene in question is during daddy-daughter karaoke night. Grammer wants to do the Piña Colada song, but Belle's character is like, no way, do you know what that song is actually about? And Grammer is befuddled and mugs to the camera, asking, is it not just about yummy Piña Coladas? No way, Jose, it's about marital strife. Wowie zowie, that's a fresh take. It's a pretty apparent rip of the Afternoon Delight karaoke revelation from Arrested Development, but okay. Anyway, apparently it was this scene that got younger generations to think about this song for possibly the first time ever in their lives. And the cycle of hate continues. I think the idea of personal ads has definitely helped this song's success in subsequent decades. At least since the past 20, 30 years, it's become kind of a fun and antiquated idea, especially one to wrap an entire song around. We might only have one real Piña Colada song, but there's more than enough music about drinking already. We could have lived without a Piña Colada song in the world, but I think this song is the one great love song of personal ads, and I think people connect with that in a surprising way. So, there's my take. This song's longevity has more to owe to the story's reliance on personal ads than it does the Piña Colada cocktail. It also helps to mask some of the exaggerations from the songwriting. I doubt that this guy would actually love going for long walks in the rain if his lover asked him to. It was an imaginative escape to him. Their romanticized ideals for their partners is all very superficial stuff, not anything to base a lasting relationship off of. Try putting the text to this song's chorus in your Tinder profile and be prepared to marvel at the levels of basic you'll attract. Live, laugh, love, yoga, champagne. I've got a question. Why Piña Coladas? Maybe that's a dumb question, but seriously, what other cocktails could it have been? Could it have been the Mint Julep song instead? Or written about Jack and Cokes? Thank God he didn't try to make a Harvey Wallbanger fit the pros. Legend has it that the titular drink was written into the song's hook literally just minutes before recording it in the studio. The rest of the song's chorus was more important and he just wanted something to fill the rhyme. Rupert Holmes hates Piña Coladas, funnily enough. At the time of writing, he literally never even tasted one. I'll bet that he wishes he wrote about some other drink that fans would buy for him instead. I'm sure he loves looking like a Class A jerk by refusing to drink fan-bought Piña Coladas given to him by well-meaning fans, like, you wrote it, man, not me. And hey, he still says I am into champagne, but nobody buys him much of that. The motivating factor of Escape being a Piña Colada is totally incidental. The song began with the title, People Need Other People, and the rest just fell into place. If you're a bad faith film critic, you could reasonably call the Piña Colada in the Piña Colada Song a MacGuffin. It never mattered. But people latch on to this sort of thing, and I see a reason why. Piña Coladas make sense for this song. They're exotic things you drink on a fun vacation away from home. It influences the actual music of the song with some tropical flavor. If he sung about drinking Manhattans long and tall instead, it wouldn't work. So there, chalking it all up to people like Piña Coladas is reductive, but it still is integral to some amount of the song's identity. The writer claims the original lyric was, "If you like Humphrey Bogart and getting caught in the rain."
And so finally I wrote a song and it went, "If you like Humphrey Bogart and getting caught in the rain."
Showing yet again that Homer Simpson is every songwriter in history.
Baby on board, something, something, Burt Ward. This thing writes itself.
I'd love to see an alternate universe where Escape the Humphrey Bogart song took off. He'd already exhausted movie references in his songs before and decided against it. His debut album ended with a 10-minute sound collage of movie clips, which was fitting for an album whose opening line was, "There are songs that sound like movies."
There are songs that sound like movies.
For a song that's about giving in to desires and embracing off-the-cuff spontaneity, the Piña Colada Song actually was a pretty spontaneous song in its creation. The lyrics were written the night before, the title line 5 minutes before recording, and the vocal track they used was the very first one Holmes recorded, since other takes just didn't have the same excitement, even if they were more correct. It's one of those songs where any small thing could have not lined up properly and then the song just wouldn't exist. He said he needed something up-tempo to balance out his Partners in Crime album, so he began his work on the instrumental for Escape. He wasn't thrilled with the chord progression as is and felt that the lyrics would need to carry the song. The deadline was creeping up. And when the band was recording the basic instrumental to this song that still needed a finished lyric, the drummer was so inebriated that he passed out cold after finishing just the first take. Blacked out from too much fun, as Holmes puts it.
And the drummer was unconscious from apparently having so much fun doing that first take.
The drums were mostly unusable, except that Holmes took 16 bars of that first take and looped them, effectively being an early example of sampling, which surprised me because I always thought the drums sounded very loose and in the moment. The first ever use of sampling came from the drums on John Congo's He's Gonna Step on You Again in 1971, by the way. In desperate need of inspiration and fast, he turned to the newspaper's personal section and came across something written by a very attractive woman. He had to wonder why someone like her would need to resort to placing a romance ad in the paper. So his imagination got away with him, and bam! He now knew that he had a song concept. It was clear to him that the last verse's bait and switch twist would be the clinch to the entire song. If the twist falls flat, so does the entire narrative. There's an anecdote that on his way to the recording studio, he asked his taxi driver to pull over and allow Holmes to recite the full lyrics to Escape to him, uninterrupted with no pauses, because the lyrical flow was so crucial to him. He wanted a layman opinion to confirm not only if the song works, but if the twist was too obvious. Like anybody could ever predict that bombshell was coming. The response from the cabbie was good, and Holmes went into the studio with confidence in the song and finished it. The song was finished and ready for the album, and Holmes didn't think much of it, but his label sure did. It was now going to be the first song on his album and the lead single from the album, but there's one big problem. Holmes was hesitant to rename the song's title from Escape. He wanted to stick to his guns as an artist and keep the original title since he viewed it as the emotional center to the song. The record execs practically begged him to reconsider since so many radio stations were now being flooded with requests to play the Piña Colada Song, which was nowhere in its title. Holmes was understandably confused since Piña Coladas were essentially the last thing to be written for the song. But as soon as he agreed to the name change, it shot straight up to #1 with a bullet. It's one of those rare songs where the parenthetical song title becomes the unofficial song's title, which only happens every now and then. Like how this Quiet Riot song was originally called Metal Health, and eventually added the chorus's lyrics to the title when it was released as a single, now making it Metal Health, Bang Your Head. And then the title flipped them before finally just becoming Bang Your Head, dropping the original title entirely. It's like a First Blood Rambo thing going on. Did you know that this song had a verifiable impact on Piña Coladas as commonplace drinks in America? I like covering songs that have some actual real-world influence to it somehow, no matter how banal and trivial it is. And isn't the world at least a little better because of it? Because Piña Coladas weren't all that popular prior. As I previously mentioned, they'd only really had a 20-year presence in America at the time. After the song became a smash, the song actually led to a spike in sales and recognition for the drink, allowing it to become the party favorite it is today. They were usually a delicacy saved for vacations, but not your average bars, until the song brought the drink to the forefront of people's minds. July 10th is even National Piña Colada Day. It's probably giving too much credit to directly link its popularity to this song and this song alone, but I think it's fair to speculate that this song jump-started its popularity. So if you're a fan of the drink who hates this song because it presumably cashed in on an already existing Piña Colada trend and is just a doofy guy singing "Yes, I like Piña Coladas," no. And you should probably apologize to Rupert. As for the rest of the album, it's alright, I guess. The title track has kind of a limp Joe Jackson type groove, or something. Actually, it kind of sounds exactly like Funky Town if the musicians phoned it in. Speaking of phoning it in, Answering Machine has to be one of the all-time stupidest concepts for a song I've ever heard before.
Leave your name and number, and I'll try to get back to you. You have 30 seconds to talk to me before you're through.
Nearly everything else from the album is just some kind of bloated balladry. Like, whatever the secret ingredient was that made Harry Nilsson's Without You such a compelling song is totally missing here. It's not bad, mind you, just nothing to write home about. Lunch Hour treads frighteningly similar territory to Cheeseburger in Paradise, which is a singular yike for me. The other track on the album that charted was called Him, which is another song about infidelity, but this time played straight. Geez, 2 cheating songs in a row. I hope this guy's okay. Him is something about finding your girl cheating because she bought her lover's brand of cigarettes instead of his own. The lyrics are still pretty sharp and it has a good structure to it, much like his biggest hit. I just wish the lyrics had more notable music to work with. Nothing bad, but it stops short of being great. It got to number 6 in 1980, which isn't shabby at all. Plus, I've heard a fair share of listeners still have fondness towards this song. His debut album got him some attention and is probably worth checking out. If he kept with the same style a few years down the line, it's probable this all could be considered sophistopop, but it's pretty alright for what it is. If you wanted a slightly artier version of I Write the Songs, then this was probably made for you. Escape is still the most worthwhile song on the Partners in Crime album by a decent margin, as far as I'm concerned. So that's all about the song we know, but what happened beforehand? I had a feeling when going into writing the script for this episode that Rupert Holmes was probably going to be one of those accomplished behind-the-scenes artists. Escape seemed like it had too much personality for him to just disappear without a trace. And it turns out, he already had a pretty steady stream of songwriting credits years before the Piña Colada Song. He snagged his first hit when writing for the Cufflinks, later renamed Street People, whose lead singer had sung Sugar Sugar by the fictional Archies in 1969. His first solo album caught the eye of a few high-profile musicians, and he's worked in some capacity with the likes of Dolly Parton, the Drifters, the Platters, Sparks, and Judy Collins. Barbra Streisand even sung a couple of his written songs in an actual movie she was in. You might have even heard of it. It was called A Star Is Born. So yeah, studio musician, songwriter, producer. He got around and did plenty besides just sing about Piña Coladas. Oh, and he also wrote a couple songs for this one band before he went solo. He had the hit song called Whoa, 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 Hold the Phone. I completely forgot about this before I started researching him. This video now gives me the opportunity to talk about one of the weirdest hits that I know about. I really didn't think this song was going to come up this early in the channel's history, but here we are. I wondered if I would ever get the chance to talk about this one, and I definitely forgot that Rupert Holmes was tied to this infamous song. Okay, so in one of his previous music outings, the Buoys, he hit the big leagues with the song Timothy. What's so strange about it? Well, boy. This was the song which was on the Hot 100 for 17 weeks that was about cannibalism. Yeah. 2 characters are forced to resort to eat their friend and titular character of the song, Timothy, after they're trapped in, get this, a collapsed mine shaft. I really don't plan these things out, but that is one heck of a coincidence. Seriously, let me know in the comments below if there are any other songs about coal mines, if you got them. 3 people are trapped in a mine shaft, and 2 of them ate the third. 3 men enter, 2 men leave. Wow.
Hey, Rupert Holmes wrote Timothy. That was about cannibalism.
Timothy,
Now that is the singing of a man with a soul full of anguish and a tummy full of Timothy. So here's your Rupert Holmes episode, Piña Coladas and Cannibalism. That's the career arc we're talking about here. I would have loved it if this somehow influenced his later hit. If you like people carnitas. He's not into health food? No kidding. The story is that Rupert Holmes and the Buoys convinced Skepta Records to sign them for a 1 single deal. And they wanted to give them something they could really sink their teeth into. the label had no obligation to promote it, so they deliberately tried to write something that would get the record banned from radio. It caught on with young record buyers who were spreading the song like wildfire by word-of-mouth traction. They would request it on radio stations, and disc jockeys would realize the true nature of the song and ban the single, only adding to its reputation as a must-hear song by making a big stink about it. No such thing as bad publicity. The label tried to backpedal hard and claimed that Timothy was just their pet mule in the mineshaft, but the band never played along and always denied it when asked. People be eating people, which in turn made the label look like a pack of... well, never mind. And it does sound like it could pass for a regular song that's totally not about cannibalism. Most listeners don't even clue into its subject matter until a second or third listen. It's fine enough as a song with decent chords, passable melody. It's got a little violin part on the chorus that's pretty grating, actually. I think it's pretty good in a really morbid but still fun sort of way. Some sources describe this song's genre as bubblegum, which is a good laugh. If you thought the Piña Colada Song got a harsh reception, then yikes, you should look at what the critics said about this one. They tore it to shreds. This book calls it the 4th worst song ever written. Timothy is a song that a lot of people did not take in good humor whatsoever, and has been featured on a good metric of worst songs ever lists, which is something the band probably would have wanted anyway. Even to this day, it gets singled out as an all-time chart mistake. I tried doing a search for other songs with the same unique subject matter, but Timothy is unsurprisingly the first result. Who cares if Rupert Holmes revolutionized the Piña Colada industry? Having the world's most famous song about eating people is the better claim to fame in my opinion. People eat other people indeed. There are some songs about it that are strictly metaphorical. But that's no fun. The songs that are literally about cannibalism ranges from strange, avant-garde spoken word recordings to extreme metal where you can't even make out the words, nor can I show the album art without getting this video taken down from YouTube, so I just won't bother. I will list off some of these bright-eyed, smiley song titles and let your imagination do the rest. Pleasures of the Flesh by Exodus, Eaten by Bloodbath, Predator by Carnivore, Eat Me Alive by Judas Priest, Cannibal by Static X, Edible Autopsy by Cannibal Corpse, Slices of You by Electric Six, Cannibal Song by Ministry off their album The Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio as Heaven and Hell wrote Eating the Cannibals for a change. South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker's first directorial effort was Cannibal the Musical, and Man Eater by Holland Oates. Is this weird? I'm probably spending too much time talking about this. Point is, Timothy stood in a class of its own for reasons, and this would make for an infinitely more embarrassing song to have as your only hit than the Piña Colada Song would be. To no one's surprise, this was the unlikely hit song that was impossible to duplicate. For the record, the song was written, released, and put onto the charts only 2 years before the Uruguayan Flight 571 accident. I think audiences would have found the song in too poor taste if released any time after the harrowing story of their survival made public news. The band was pressured into replicating its success and put out Give Up Your Guns, but it was clear that lightning wasn't going to strike twice. How could it? It scraped onto the bottom of the Hot 100 and was a minor hit when re-released in Europe in 1979, the same year as the Piña Colada Song, funnily enough. They only have 16 other songs to their name, and this was one of the only songs that Holmes wrote for the group. The band dissipated and gave way to another group called Decoding, who got to open up for Queen on their The Game tour, so that's pretty good for them. Hard to ask for much more. And they still play Timothy live. A little too enthusiastically, if you ask me. Rupert Holmes recorded 2 more albums after Partners in Crime before stepping away from recorded pop music altogether. The last single released under his name was called The End, and yeah, that's fitting enough. In 1986, he wrote another hit called You Got It All to be released by the Jets. In my own experience, I don't hear anybody really talk about this song these days, but it has had a second life when it was recorded for Britney Spears' debut album. What even is this career arc anymore? Somebody please tell me. What's he done since? Well, Rupert Holmes has had a long and very successful career being a playwright and doing work on Broadway. I couldn't tell you the full extent of it because theater is honestly way out of my expertise. A massive blind spot for myself personally, but it sounds like he is very accomplished in the theater world, to put it lightly. Like, his play Solitary Confinement set a Kennedy Center box office record, he adapted a John Grisham novel, A Time to Kill, for the stage, and he had a musical that starred John C. Reilly if you want to measure success like that. No, seriously, if this is something you're into at all, I think you should check his work out. He's even won 2 Tonys. As for the standing legacy to Escape the Piña Colada Song, he seems nonplussed with this being his most public claim to fame. Most people don't even get the one chance to make an impression. He doesn't feel the right to be choosy about it. And hey, this song has brought a lot of happiness to a lot of people. For all the couples out there who enjoy getting caught in the rain and reigniting their love for years to come, they've got this little voice in their head driving them to each other, a voice most likely belonging to Rupert Holmes.
So there you have it. The Piña Colada Song was its own special concoction that served as the last call for alcohol for the entire 1970s, from bottoms up.
And that was the second episode of Left of the Dial. What a doozy. I hope that you got something worthwhile from this video. I imagine that this is a song that everybody's had some experience with, but nobody really takes the time to stop and think about it, so I hope you enjoyed that to some extent. If you missed my last episode, then check it out. It's a review of Devo's Working in the Coal Mine, the least likely hit song from the heavy metal film soundtrack, and a cool story there. If you're interested, I also make my own music under the Arizona and Summer moniker. My debut album, Temperatures Rise, is available for streaming and purchase if you want to check it out. Comment below what you think about this video. I would love to start a discourse with y'all. And hit the little subscribe button if you want to see future content like this in the future. And last but not least, remember to keep your eyes to the stars and your ear to the radio. Good night, everybody.